Let's return now to the energy crisis. The federal government is relying on offshore wind farms to fulfil its green dream. Here's Climate Change and Energy Minister Chris Bowen speaking last Friday.
Offshore wind is jobs rich and energy rich. It creates a lot of power and a lot of jobs. And the Star of the South proposal, which would be built in that offshore wind zone off Gippsland, would create enough power for 1.2 million households, or 20% of Victoria's energy needs.
It's all so wonderful and easy, isn't it? The Sydney Morning Herald reports dozens of turbines similar to these in Belgium could be installed off Gippsland in Victoria and Wollongong and Newcastle in New South Wales. The turbines are almost twice the height of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, with blades more than 100 metres long. Let's bring in Alan Moran from Regulation Economics, who joins me from Melbourne. Good to speak to you as ever, Alan. Look, I did rough numbers on what it's cost to get to where we are with wind and solar, and what AEMO says we'll need to get to net zero. And you're talking, $400 to $800 billion of these renewable investments. And with all the land problems and arguments about it, no wonder they want to try and stick them offshore. But I think you've supplied us with numbers that show us that the offshore wind farms are almost twice as expensive.
Yeah, the offshore wind farms are twice as expensive, more than twice as expensive as onshore. And there's a bit of a vogue for offshore wind farms. The UK is going offshore because they realise that there's a lot of social dissatisfaction with onshore wind farms, and the offshore ones might be hidden. We have problems here because the offshore wind farms are in areas which can be readily visible, often in scenic places. We have some problems with how do we gel that with fishing rights. There are some issues about whale migrations. I don't know how we'd handle that. These issues, the minister has said, oh, well, we'll address all these issues. I'm not quite sure what they mean by that. We'll address them. They seem very much insurmountable, together with the additional cost. And as you've said before, the cost of renewables is at least probably something of the order of $800 billion. And in addition to that, there's a massive increase in the cost of the transmission system, because they're intrinsically less dense. You need many more wires and things, and this in itself creates problems.
I just think, Alan, if they're going to have them, we've been seeing, looking at them there, they've got to surely have them off the northern beaches of Sydney and off Bondi Beach, where the Teals have won these seats. They want them. Perhaps whack a couple in Sydney Harbour, and you get some in Port Phillip Bay for the good people of Toorak as well. I mean, if these people want the wind farms, then stick them in their electorates. Now, I want to go back to a graphic that we just had earlier. I looked at the costs of energy, because it gets back to the nuclear debate. I've been highlighting this week how the International Energy Agency shows that nuclear is actually the cheapest long-term energy supply. And you've supplied us with this graph here, which shows that also, apart from coal, the black coal that people want to get rid of, nuclear also compares very well when it comes to levelised costs. So the cost argument against nuclear just doesn't stack up.
Yeah, I mean, nuclear is more expensive than coal and is likely to remain more expensive than coal, but it is it's a great technology. The reason why nuclear is so much more expensive is because we are making huge demands on safety regarding nuclear, and that makes it very difficult to do. Essentially, that does detract from nuclear in ways that it's intended to detract. But, it should be the power of the future. I mean, it is intrinsically cheaper than anything else, but it's been that way for a long time. And unfortunately, what we've seen in the last 15 or 20 years is actually a decline in the share of nuclear in world electricity. It's gone from about 16% to about 11%. As a result of the assault on this technology. But intrinsically it's there, and it's reliable, it's dependable. You build a plant, it'll last for 100 years. It needs very little refurbishment in that period. And you compare that with wind, which has probably only got a 20-year lifestyle, and then after that 20 years, it really has to be scrapped, and that presents some problems for landfill and all those sorts of other issues. Nuclear is going to be, I mean, the numbers you had up on the chart there were that's the price of wind X factor, if you like, X generator. But in the case of wind, you've actually got to firm it up. And in terms of what the cost would be for firming it up for Australia as a whole, one estimate from a reputable firm called Global Rome has said it will take 25 snowy twos to do that. Well, we only have about 3 of them anyway. Yeah. But that is an indication of the cost to do wind. You know, it
and
just
the
is
practicality. You can't do it. We can't do 25 snowy hydro schemes. It's impossible. This is what keeps coming back to this thing.
Impossible.
It's absolutely impossible to do what they're talking about. Thanks for joining us, Alan.